We, the profession, should have been and should still be honest to teachers in the community about how essential we are. We believe we are essential. We don't say that lightly.
You are to my kids.
We don't say that lightly, you know? And what I say and my staff believes is that, yes, we're not as essential as doctors and nurses, and maybe first responders are also more essential than us, but then it's us. We are essential. We cannot have a whole generation of kids lose that much learning.
I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate. Our next guest, well, he was supposed to be a senator, but apparently he just couldn't do that. Mike Miles, it's great to see you again. I haven't seen you in so long.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Now, you ran for the Democratic nomination. I'm trying to remember what year it was.
2004.
Oh my God, it was
for the U.S. Senate.
I thought it was like 2, 3, 4 years ago.
Oh yeah, you're showing your age actually.
Oh yeah, the memory. Do you? Was that a worthwhile experience? Before we jump into education, just out of curiosity.
Yeah, it was a great experience. I learned so much. I didn't know anything.
I would think you would learn
politics and
I would think you
campaigning,
learn running for office is not worth doing.
Well, it's worth doing. I think for those who make it to the Senate or the U.S. Congress, and so I don't regret it. I think I learned quite a bit.
What was so fascinating from that year, just to go down the history trail, was it was you versus Ken Salazar on the Democrat side. Right. It was Bob Schaefer and Pete Coors on the Republican side, and it was one of the best years for primaries. Just as a complete observer, that you had these guys, all of them, who had real depth, real knowledge, real opinions, real differences, and really tough primaries. It was like, that's what politics is supposed to be like. At least from my point of view. Maybe you remember it differently.
No, I remember it being a pretty professional, very, not cordial is not the right word, but it was about the issues. It's about the strengths and weaknesses of every candidate. It wasn't, it's crazy hatred.
It wasn't mudslinging.
Partisan,
It wasn't constant attack ads.
Right.
It was, here are my differences. Here, it wasn't the same. Maybe other candidates feel differently, but as an observer, it's like, I wish we could do those elections again.
That's how I remember it. Sure.
Let's go to the next gig. If I remember correct, Harris School District, you became the superintendent.
Mm-hmm. Harrison and Colorado
Harrison,
Springs.
right. Mm-hmm. Why would anybody want this job? Here you are, a Democrat at the time, and you're going into this district. You have to deal with union issues. You have to deal with that. But some amazing things happened under your tenure. What did you do down there?
So, so I ran for the U.S. Senate as the assistant superintendent when I was assistant superintendent of schools in Fountain. Mm-hmm. So I was in education. So it wasn't a complete shift from running for Senate to superintendent.
But two very different skill sets.
Yes, that's true. There's some overlap, of course, because being a superintendent is about leadership, vision, and making the tough decision nobody else wants to make. And I think that's part of the difference of what I bring to the superintendent of Harrison or superintendent of Dallas, or even the job that I have right now.
And you went to Dallas too.
Right. That was after Harrison.
Roy Romer did the same sort of thing when he became the...
He went to L.A.
He went to L.A.
Yeah.
If there is one school district I wouldn't want to touch with a 10-foot pole, it would have got to be L.A. I mean, what a mess. And Mr. Romer and I would have a world of differences, but I have to tip my hat to him to take on that kind of challenge. He didn't need to, and you didn't need to take on these challenges. What was the biggest change you made in Harris?
In Harrison, we focus on academic achievement and the quality of instruction. And that made a whole bunch of difference. We raised student achievement, we improved the quality of instruction, and that laid the groundwork for several years after I left.
That's been your calling card ever since. There, Dallas, and now what you're doing, and I really want to get into the new schools. Help me understand what that means. that we got into instruction and achievement. I mean, those sound like empty words to me when I hear an educator use those terms, because educators use very soft, weird terms that a simple man like me just doesn't understand.
Yeah.
Help me out.
Yeah, so being a teacher is very hard. Running schools as a principal, probably the toughest job. That
you've
goes
done it.
unnoticed. I've done that, but I'm thinking about the teachers in
Right.
Harrison and the principals in Harrison or in Dallas. It's a really tough job, and there's a lot of variables. But the one variable that makes the most difference for kids is the quality of that teacher and how effective that teacher is in communicating. You can have all kinds of technology, Chromebooks, hotspots, whatever, and if you don't have a really strong teacher, it's not as impactful, it's not as effective. And so if given a choice between great resources and great teachers, without any resources, I'd still take the teacher.
Even without the resources.
Even without the resources. Now, don't hear the wrong message. I'm not saying resources don't matter.
What I
right?
heard was Mike Miles saying we can defund schools. We don't need to put any money in
Right,
capital.
so
That's exactly what I heard.
Right, and I don't want that message to go out. Resources do matter, but the quality of the teacher is key.
I mean, we all remember that teacher. We've all had that teacher. And we don't remember the bad I can't name most of my teachers, but there's that guy who took an interest, that woman who really challenged me. I think of this guy named John Pontius in high school, who I hated with a passion, and he was teaching us English literature, and oh my God, I wanted to go after this guy. And I think about it now, it's like, oh my God, the things I learned from him. And by the end of the semester, it's like, this guy was my favorite teacher.
At the end of the day, I think students appreciate teachers that teach them something, where they learn. I mean, we all want to have the soft teacher every once in a while that lets us do what we want.
Everybody wants your friend.
But in the end of the day, they know, kids know that they're there to learn, and they like the teacher in the end who teaches them something and that they've learned from. So what if you had a whole staff of those teachers? What if everybody was John Pontius or
Pontius, yeah.
Pontius? What if everybody was like that? What if everybody was really that strong and engaging kids, helping kids? Then you would narrow the achievement gap. I mean, we talk about inequity, right? And we're going to get to it, I'm sure, but COVID-19 has laid bare some of the inequities inherent in our system, no question. And there's a lot of us who are concerned about that and want to do something about that. So one of the things I think we should do about that is make sure, at post-COVID, even during COVID, but let's say post-COVID, that you place your most effective teachers with the least proficient students across the country. Because right now we already know across the country that your least proficient students have the least effective teachers.
What you're saying sounds so counterintuitive to a lot of people, which is, got these great kids with great minds. We match them with the great teachers that we have, and we're going to have Einsteins. You're saying the opposite, which is we've got great teachers, match them with the kids that are down at the academic bottom, and mix that up.
Right.
Am I hearing that right?
So I'll frame it a little bit differently in that I need to say we have a lot of great teachers, okay? So it's not like a handful, or a small percentage. We have a lot of great teachers, but we also have teachers who struggle, even with their best intentions and best art. Nobody comes into this business and doesn't work hard. I mean, it is a tough profession. But there are teachers who aren't as effective, and there are teachers who are not engaging in the ways they should be. People say, when I say things like that, people say, well, he doesn't like teachers, and that is just so far from the truth. But I know that's just a reality of people like me who say, who faces reality. We know there are stronger teachers than others. That's a fact.
Let me push on this, though.
Yeah, sure.
Because when the state or others have tried to put in some sort of way to evaluate teachers, because you're begging the next question, which is, well, how do you know what a great teacher is? And the teacher's only as great as the kids that come to them, I keep hearing. And so I've heard a lot of teachers say that the evaluations are wrong. And for so long, and forever, we treat teachers like factory workers. That is, they have a salary schedule and they get their pay raises based on basically two factors: how long they've been in the business and how many education certificates they get, how many classes they go to. I see nothing out there that says you're a good teacher. I see that you've been in the system long and that you go to a lot of continuing ed classes, or you've got a master's. Great. Are you a good teacher? And so every time we've tried to put a system to evaluate teachers, the union goes crazy and says you can't do that.
So
but they're not factory workers.
One of the systemic problems we have in public education is the employee value proposition, meaning this. You just described how most 99% of all districts and schools compensate their teachers, right, on years of experience and college credit. And we think, in our system, we compensate people for what the organization values most. And every organization should define that. Because we know this, and not just me, anybody in the business world, anybody who's in an effective organization knows that if your compensation system is disconnected with what you value, then you won't maximize your effectiveness. That just makes sense. So,
but that's all of education from my point of view.
Well, so we define what we value, and we're compensating people accordingly.
And what is it
that's
you
the
value?
Value proposition. So we value narrowing the achievement gap. We value high quality instruction. We value students who learn how to learn. We value a safe and orderly environment. These are the things we value. And if you were to ask most parents, what do you value in a school? Just ask them. They're going to say, well, I want my kid to be educated. I want my kid to be able to read. I value a school that can do that. I want the school to keep my kid safe. I want my kid to do these things, right? The things that we've identified. It won't be an exact list.
Help me with some definitions.
Right?
We want to close the achievement gap.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What is the achievement gap?
So there's two gaps. So one is the reading, writing, math, science gap. That means kids who are in high socioeconomic families, have that don't live in poverty, and the kids who live in poverty or are a minority. There's a gap when you look at reading proficiency. That gap is about 30 percentage points, no matter what exam you're talking about, whether it's reading or math or science. And so if you're a poor minority student, that is a huge gap. It exists. It has existed for decades. Okay, and public education, I'm part of that, so it's partly my fault. We've not been closing that gap well, narrowing it.
I can help you.
That's one gap.
No, let's stop there for a second.
Yeah.
I can help you. We can take care of this in a couple of years. You say that people who come from better off families, obviously their parents might be more involved, or they've got some better chances. What we need to do then is just bring these kids down to a lower level, to a lower expectation, and work on these kids only, and make sure that we bring them up to the same level. So there's this, but there's also this, and I believe much of what we're doing in government-run education is this.
So if I talk to my colleagues, if you were to talk to my colleagues as a whole, nobody wants to do this, right?
So they say.
Well, I don't see any evidence of my colleagues acting in a way to bring this down.
We should probably reintroduce something here.
Yeah.
When you're talking about your schools, we haven't labeled it yet, and so people might not be following. So you now, after being the superintendent down in Harrison, after being the superintendent at Dallas, really have looked at these things of achievement gap and the power of real instruction. That we're not a daycare center. We're here to build students and instruct them. You've now put together your own set of schools that some are here in Colorado and down in Texas. And these are public schools. These are charter schools. People seem to get that mixed up, that a charter isn't public. Yes, it's public. Tell me about the school, and then I want to go right back to the achievement gap.
Okay. So, we're a charter school, and anybody can enroll in our school. The school in Aurora, which we're closest to here, about 72% free and reduced lunch, and 72% of the students take advantage of that. We're about 78% minority. And so we cater to kids who are challenged by poverty and language barriers. And when they come to us, many of them are not proficient. They're not at grade level. And so our mission is to help the students narrow the achievement gaps. In other words, read, write, and do math at grade level and prepare for the year 2030. So we believe that there's another set of skills and there's a gap growing with these skills. And these are year 2030 competencies like information literacy, problem solving, critical thinking, computer literacy, but also applications, software literacy, learning how to learn. Communications is another part. That's a whole set of skills, working in teams to solve problems. That's a whole set of skills that is growing, a gap is growing with that set of skills also.
Call your schools third future schools. Help me with that. What was the first two futures?
So the first future is the one described by time, right? Past, present, future. The second future is the one you can envision. And the third future is the one you bring about. So that's why we're third future, because we can envision what year 2030, year 2035 will look like, or at least we put stakes in the ground to say this is what it might be like, and then we're trying to bring it about. That's why we're third future.
All right, now let me bring you back to the achievement gap.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that there's an achievement gap. Your school has overwhelmingly people from poorer families, poorer households, and not the same advantages as other kids. And we all know the stories. I've heard the stories, you heard the stories of classes that slow down even though that there are kids in there that should be moving on, should be back. So there is a real lowest common denominator problem in a classroom. And I understand why that would be, because you've got to bring everyone along, but there's an equity issue that this kid is being held back so that the kid down here can be brought forward. Did I describe that the right way?
You're right on the mark. As if you've been a teacher. So let me describe, and again, I think if there's a problem in education, it's usually the system. We can blame teachers if you want, we can blame principals, we can blame people like me. But in the end of the day, it's a system. So let me describe what happens and why we have the gap and the situation you just described. I'm a teacher in a struggling school district. I have 25 kids, 26 kids in front of me. I'm teaching fourth grade math. And the ability levels are all over. I got some kids who are proficient. Most of them are not, at least in the struggling school districts, right? They're not reading at grade level. In fact, most of American kids are not reading at grade level. So in the struggling districts, it's even worse. So I've got kids down here, I got kids in the middle, I got kids up here, but skewed this way. I'm a teacher, I'm gonna work hard, but I got all these kids all over the place. What do? I teach here. I teach just below proficient because I'm trying to get as many kids as I can. I'm not a bad teacher, I'm not evil. I'm not a bad teacher, but you know what? What do you want me to do? You want me to do 26 different lesson plans for 26 different kids? So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to teach right here. I'm going to capture as much of the middle proficiency kids as I can. I'm going to teach partially proficient right here. I'm going to try to help the top kids, but you know what? They're kind of really going to work on their own.
They're not spending a lot of time in your brain. You're not
I'm
working
sorry,
for them.
the kids down here are so low. I'm going to push them to SPED, or I'm going to push them to interventionists or whatever.
SPED being?
I'm sorry, special education. I'm going to try to get them help with these specialists. Okay, but this is what I'm doing. So
you're going to play to the middle.
Then you wonder why at the end of the year most of my kids are partially proficient, because I taught partially proficient.
By the way, those people who need to in education parlance, partially proficient is a kinder way of saying what, a D student?
Well, so I'm using the language of the assessments, but it means you're not proficient. It means you're not proficient. It means you're not reading at grade level or doing math at grade level.
What happened to the words like failing?
Well, I mean, what is failing? Failing is maybe the bottom tier, right? There's degrees.
Right.
Is a C proficient or not proficient, right? So, I mean, we don't need to get into the letter grade argument, but anyway, you understand what I'm saying, right?
My frustration is when educators talk, for me, there needs to be an education speak to regular guy translator, because we don't know. And for a while, remember in the assessments, they were going to be, proficient, not yet partially proficient. I mean, because we couldn't say your kid is failing and he needs help.
Yeah, and one way of describing it is that if you're proficient, you can read at grade level. And so less than that is what I'm talking about. And so can you blame a teacher for doing that? The system is not designed to differentiate. So our network of schools, we differentiate 4 levels every day. We start off with 35 minutes of direct instruction, proficient level, at grade level instruction directly. That means the teacher is engaging kids directly. And then we take a mini quiz. We call it a demonstration of learning. So kids have to demonstrate what they learned in 35 minutes or whether they learned it at all. And then we break it up into 4 groups. Kids who are still learning, kids who almost have it, kids who are proficient, and kids who are accelerated. Every day, every class.
All right,
That's how we've been getting our growth.
Let me kick this back to you.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, I do want to save some time to talk about how you're doing this in the age of COVID.
Yeah, sure.
A lot of schools are not meeting in person. I believe in-person learning is crucial. At least for my kids, it's absolutely crucial. So basically, you teach as if everyone is on the level, right there, and then you give them a quick assessment.
Yeah, mini quiz.
And
demonstration of learning.
Those who've got it down, we're going to go do something else. Those who need more help or a lot more help, do you break it out in groups then?
We break it into 4 groups, and the students who are still learning the objective stay with the teacher and get more instruction, more one-on-one time or 1-on-2 or 3 time with the teacher in the classroom. The accelerated kids and the proficient kids go into what we call a team center, and they work independently on the same objective, but just harder material, deeper, more comprehensive. So it's those 4 ranges, and we do that every day. That's how we've been getting our growth.
Let me tell you why this is a complete fail and why this won't work. Is because what you're doing, Mr. Miles, is you are embarrassing those kids who are not yet proficient in this whole not yet partially proficient code system, so that we don't damage anybody's self-esteem. Every day in your cruel classrooms, you are splitting these kids up into 4ths. The 4th that's going to succeed, and my kid is down in the 4th that won't, and every day he's down in the 4th. And so the whole school will label this kid as the failure. He will lose his self-esteem, and therefore
so you were the one that wrote that bad email. You were the one. Look, we have had that criticism, but come to our school. You will see that we approach it like we would life. We all are not proficient at something. We all have to grow and learn. This is a learn how to learn institution that we're building. And so our kids don't feel that way. Our kids may be a learner today in math, but in the next hour, they're proficient in language arts for that objective, for that day. Tomorrow, they may be back to being a learner, or they may be accelerated. And so our kids know that we don't hide the truth from them, right? If you're not at grade level, we're going to talk to you about that, and it's okay. And we're not going to make you feel bad about it. We're going to applaud every success, and we focus on growth more than proficiency. Because if a teacher's getting 2 years growth in 1 year's time, and because a 4th grade kid came to me with 2nd grade skills, and at the end of my time with that 2nd grade kid, that kid is reading at the 3.5 years level. right? And that's a wonderful job. Pat that teacher in the back. The kid didn't pass the 4th grade test, right? Because they started 2 years behind. So let's applaud the teacher, let's applaud the kid, and let's keep going. Now, at some point, they have to hit proficiency, but they will if they get 2 years growth or 1.5 years growth. The school in Aurora has gotten 2 years growth in 1 year's time based on the NWA MAP test. I know for your listeners that doesn't mean anything. It's a national test. It's a real test. It's not a Mickey Mouse test. It's real, and 5 million kids take it every year. So we are normed with them. And so we have had about 2 years growth in 1 year's time, 2 years in a row. Last year was the 3rd year for this Aurora school, and the teachers got 1.2 years of growth in 5 months. We didn't take it in May. We take it at the beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year. So the proof is in the pudding. The other proof is kids are coming to our school. We started 3 years ago with 491 kids. Today, we have over 920 students.
Wow.
And
is there a waiting list?
Yes, we had to stop it this year.
See, that's the part that always amazes me when you open up educational choice. The proof is in the parents who want to come, the families that want to come. This is obviously working, and people. And you see it with the different choices. Liberty Commons up in Fort Collins, Classical View Academy in Golden. You see these different things with waiting lists, double the size.
We get criticized for being too rigorous. Even right now in COVID, right? Which schools, which districts are talking about raising achievement? We have a goal of 1.7 years of growth this year.
Wow.
So, and it'll be tough because it's, we're facing everybody else.
Let me see here if I'm hearing this. Because witnessing the lack of any education, particularly my special needs son is getting right now in the world of COVID, and even my daughter who's in high school seeing the lack of rigorous education because she's looking at a screen, she's not in there. You're saying even during this COVID experience, you're still going to get your average kids to grow not a grade level in a year, but a grade 0.7 in a year.
Yes. And so that's our charge. That's what our mission is. And
are you teaching in person?
Yes, we're teaching in person. And we've been, we've been criticized for even for mentioning that we have academic goals and rigor, because for some people, not everybody, for some, this is a year where we should just, kind of chill out, make sure we're dealing with the stress of COVID
and not
push, the kids too hard or the teachers too hard or things like that. And I understand that. That's okay. It's not okay for us. And come to the school, watch the kids, watch the growth. That's why we're still getting enrollment. We had to stop in out of our 9 grades, because it's K-8. Only 3 are open right now, and we've opened up more space. All the other grades.
When you say open, you mean?
Meaning we can still take a few more kids, but only a few more, because we've already cut it off for the other grades. In other words,
you still have a little space available, or you did, but those are now being filled up too.
Yeah, when I say little open, I'm talking about a handful of kids left.
You don't mean open the doors during COVID, right?
No, I meant the grade is open for more enrollment.
Let me ask you this part, which has to do with pay. So, is your pay structure different than if you went to a normal government school? And we talked earlier about the salary structure. And so if you're aligning everything you do with achievement, that we're going to get more than a grade's worth of education in a year, how do you compensate your teachers?
Yeah, so we compensate, again, based on an employee value proposition that talks about what we value most, and then we're going to compensate that. So we have a differentiated pay compensation plan. Differentiated, meaning 6th grade reading teacher, 3rd grade reading teacher, they're like, we call it the hospital model. They're like surgeons. So if you get to 3rd grade and you can't read, or you get to 6th grade and you can't read, you better have a teacher who's really skilled at growing reading ability. And so in order to get that skill, we pay pretty high. That starting salary, and this is a range, even with 0 years of experience, I think for sixth grade reading, the starting salary is $65,000, even if you have 0 years of experience. Now, if you have, and we have a range, and then we have one bar for years of experience. Either you have 3 years or you don't. If you have more than 3, it doesn't matter. But if you have 3 years, the starting salary at that point is $72,000. So 3 years, you can make $72,000 or maybe $75,000 now. I don't have it in front of me, but it's pretty serious. Now, our PE teacher, and we love the arts, we have not cut out the arts. We have dance, we have PE, we have music, or not music, we have karate. We have different things. Those teachers, the starting salary there with 0 years of experience is $45,000. And 3 years is the only bar that matters, and it's $48,000, I think.
So what I'm hearing in English is you will pay different teachers more depending if what they're teaching is more in need. In other words, it is harder to teach calculus or math than it is to teach PE. We want to attract better teachers. I
would frame it a little bit different. It's not that it's harder to get those teachers, it's what we value. So, for example, we have an art of thinking class. It's from 3rd grade to 8th grade. It's a block schedule, 90 minutes every other day. It's required for our kids. Art of thinking includes information literacy, problem solving, critical thinking, and we'll have communication soon. We value art of thinking. So we pay art of thinking, I think, as much as we pay our math teachers. So there's nobody out there teaching art of thinking. We have to find them and
How do you decide what the raise is going to be?
Yeah, that's a great question. So every year, well, not this last year because we wanted to make sure we had enough money because we got cut about 5% of our budget, right, because of COVID. We've had a $2,000 raise across the board. Right. But teachers are able to negotiate that individually. If they feel they're bringing greater value, then they can approach me or the executive director of schools, and we will negotiate that.
Excuse me. Let me have this reaction. What? You're not teaching all teachers? You're not treating all teachers the same?
No.
Just like in every other field of human employment, you go and you negotiate with the employee, and that means you make subjective calls as well, because you're looking at as a manager. And I think in government education, one of the many lacks of leadership is that principals or decision makers don't want to say, you're not a good teacher and here's why. You are a better teacher, we want to keep you and we don't want to lose you, so we're willing to pay you more. And so that salary schedule is a wonderful way to avoid conflict. It's a wonderful way not to challenge teachers and not to honor those teachers who are doing really well.
So let me make some of your viewers angry at me. I'm not trying to intentionally. I just know what will be the response to this argument, and that is, we have a compensation plan. We are at will, and if teachers aren't strong at instruction, we will not keep them past the year. We're not talking about average or mediocre. If you're not a proficient teacher by the end of the year, you will not be with us the following year. And, that's hard. I mean, you can hear the hackles being raised on some people's
But
neck.
we wouldn't expect that in any other field.
Yeah, and
could you imagine when you go to the doctor, all of our people in this medical staff, we're on a salary schedule. It doesn't matter how well we do our job. As long as you have tenure, you're gonna stay here. You wouldn't go to that doctor. You wouldn't go to that hospital. But somehow we've learned to accept that from education.
And if you go to the schools right now, you'll see just strong teacher after strong teacher. I'm not kidding. And we're very open. Anybody can come to our schools, just sign in. We'll walk you around. You can, with the camera, you have to sign in, but we'll walk you around. And we're very open about it. Our teachers, have been viewed by hundreds of people,
So has it been a success?
Definitely.
As measured by?
As measured by NWA, Dibbles. For Aurora, the only school...
You could just be making up those words. I have no idea what that is.
Oh, sorry. So the national exam called NWEA...
So in other words, by testing...
And the CMAS. So we won this Colorado Succeeds Prize, for example, for student growth based on the CMAS test. That's the state exam. And then also for innovation. But they didn't even consider the national test called NWA for growth.
If you have, just round it up, if every year your goal is to take that kid and grow him from his grade level to a grade and a half, well, I'm not very bright, but I know that after 8 grades, that kid is several grades ahead comparison.
Yeah, if we can do that consistently, and now we're in our 4th year at Aurora. The other school's in its 2nd year in Colorado Springs, and then the one in Texas is in its 1st year. But yes, for Aurora kids, the last year's a little bit of an anomaly because we didn't take the end of year test or the CMAS. But yes, if we can grow the kids a year and a half every year, we're going to catch them up quickly.
Real fast, last question. How are you handling COVID? For me, it is maddening that so many kids are being, their educations are being stolen, and you can't get this time back. And it's also crazy for me that the kids are among the most resilient to COVID. These are, and I get the whole "we can't bring it home to grandma" argument, and I think there's some issues there, some truth to it. But that's not a reason to deny these kids their education. Yeah. You have in-class learning. You had summer school that was in-class learning. Yep. What are you doing differently?
So here's two big buckets to talk about. The first bucket is this. We, the profession, should have been and should still be honest to teachers in the community about how essential we are. We believe we are essential. We don't say that lightly.
My kids.
We don't say that lightly, you know? And what I say and my staff believes is that, yes, we're not as essential as doctors and nurses, and maybe first responders are also more essential than us, but then it's us. We are essential. We cannot have a whole generation of kids lose that much learning. And we all know, and the research is clear already, that online remote learning at home is not as effective as in-person instruction, not even close. So we already know that. And we also know that online learning that's not synchronous, meaning it's not live, where kids get packets or they get go on this website, is not as good as having a live teacher teaching you remotely. So we're essential, and we just got to be honest about that.
If we're honest about that, then what?
If we're honest about that, then we're going to figure out a way to come to school safely. We've been in school 13 weeks. Now, 6 of those weeks were in summer school, so not all the kids were there, true. But we're now in our 7th week of school. 900 kids in Aurora, 920 students. 10 to 15% are at home because we give parents a choice, and they should have that choice. 10 to 15%, depending on the grade, want to stay home. So they're home doing live learning. The rest of the kids are in person at school. So we've been in that situation. This is our 7th week. We've had 1 confirmed case, 1 family, 2 students. We cohorted those 2 groups, sent the teacher on quarantine, tested 5 other teachers, all negative, no other spread. So 13 weeks, that means we're doing it safely. And it also means it can be done safely. It doesn't mean we won't get other people sick.
And also it doesn't mean you should be reckless. But what you have done in this, and what's happened in Liberty Commons and other schools that have stayed open, is it destroys, in my mind, this myth that we cannot safely open schools for real in-person learning.
Well, the question is, what is your level of risk? There's no question there's more elevated risk. If you don't want 1 person to get sick, if that's your threshold, then you can't open schools. So what's your level of risk? We don't close the hospital down because one nurse gets sick or even, God forbid, dies from COVID, because it is essential. And God forbid that we have anybody get sick at all, but we expect that we will have elevated risk if we come back to school. How essential are you? If you're really essential, don't just say the words. If you're really essential, then you have to tolerate a certain elevated risk, not crazy, but elevated risk, and be as safe as possible. We wear masks, we're socially distant, all those things. And the proof is in the pudding again. More kids are coming, kids are safe, parents wouldn't come if it's not safe.
You have, I believe, busted two big education myths. The first one, I keep hearing that teachers are professionals. Well, that's a lie if, in fact, you teach, if you treat them like factory workers, that they're all treated the same, whether they do a great job or a bad job. And so
but I would add a footnote, right? Because I would say it's the system. It's how we leaders put it together.
Let me rephrase it
because
this way.
it's not their fault that their school is closed right now. Right?
No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
What I hear is teachers are professionals. Well, if they're professionals, they should be treated like professionals.
No question.
And the system treats them like factory workers.
Sometimes, yeah.
And with a salary schedule, and that's what, that's my incentive. That's where you put the X. That's the finish line. I'll go do it. The other thing that we hear, which is disconnected from how we do it, is that teaching is essential. Their job is essential.
It is.
And again, you've broken that myth, because if it's essential, then they have to be open. And because they're not open, we're saying to teachers, one, you're not a professional because we don't treat you like professionals, and two, you're not essential because the system doesn't value you as essential. Fortunately, schools like yours say, no, you are a professional. We will interact with you and treat you like the professional you are, and your job is essential. We will find a way to make sure this school is open to do your essential work. Yeah. It's uplifting to teachers, and it is, I think, just as important to teachers as it is to students.
So two quick footnotes. One, to be fair, Colorado's in a lot better place than some places, right? If we were in Texas or Florida or Arizona, maybe we'd have a different conversation. I don't know. I know what I have here in Colorado, and so I know what I can do here. That's the first thing. The second thing is we need to be honest with teachers. Everybody gets to choose their own value proposition. Nobody signed up to teach in a COVID world. But you have to then ask them, be honest both ways. And we did that, right? We put out a letter to the teachers and said, look, we get it. This is new. You didn't sign up for this. But now you're going to have to choose. This is the summer. We got a year coming up, and we're going to be in person. We're going to take precautions, but we're going to be in person. If you feel like you can't tolerate an elevated risk for whatever reason, because maybe you have a grandma home or whatever, that's a choice you should make. But we're gonna give you a leave of absence without pay. We're gonna keep your job, and we're gonna pay for your health care during this year that you're not working for us. I mean, you can go drive an Uber, you can do whatever you need to do, but for us, we're gonna value you, but I can't pay you if you're not working, right? So, but you get to choose in the end. It's always a choice. So we had one teacher take us up on that out of the whole network, but then she came and worked for us in Aurora when a position came open. She was in Colorado Springs. She moved up here. She was on leave of absence.
Wow.
We had a position that we added, and she's there now. But my point is, I think we got to trust teachers. Be honest with them. Just say, choose. It's okay. I mean,
again, what I'm hearing is we claim that teachers are professionals, so therefore we don't treat them. We have to treat them like professionals, and that's how you treat them. People want to get some information on Third Future Schools. Where do they go?
They can go to www.tfsch.org. thirdfuture.org.
Thirdfuture.org.
Or you can go to AALK8.org. That stands
I think I'm going to remember the first one.
thirdfuture.org. Okay, do that.
Mike, it is great catching up with you. I'm thrilled you're having this kind of success, and I imagine the kids and parents are even more thrilled. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
If you enjoyed that conversation, by all means, click one of these other great programs. We have the best conversations with the most fascinating Coloradans. And subscribe to our channel. Just click down below and hit that little bell button too. You don't want to miss a single show.